So I feel like the last 2 years, it's been really awful, but it's also been really exciting because I've been able to do these things that in a normal work environment or in a normal work year, I would never come here. I would never travel around to islands in Thailand while I'm still working normally. Yeah. So I feel like so much excitement has come out of it, as well as really hard times.
Hey there, and welcome back to One Words, the podcast about solo traveling. My name is Anja, and I'm your guide for today. As you can hear, this is a rather unusual episode because it's in English. I'm currently in Thailand for about 3 weeks now, and after roaming around a bit, I came to the beautiful island of Koh Mak, where I will stay for a few weeks more. Here I met Emma, and after hearing her story, I had to ask her on my podcast to share it with you all, and I am so glad she agreed. Emma is originally from Sweden, but has spent a great amount of her adult life in China. Shanghai is her home, but COVID hit right at the time where she was out of the country, and since then she didn't went back. She became a digital nomad without ever aspiring to be one, and we talk about how it is to start a life in a very foreign country, how COVID brought out the wish to be closer to family and old friends, and what it's like to have a home in a country that sees you as a foreigner. Emma, thank you for being here. Thanks for agreeing to talk to me and for my first English episode. Well,
it's my first time as well on a podcast, so
yay! So it's a first.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I usually jump right in and ask, what does traveling mean to you?
I think traveling sounds a bit cliche, but I guess it's like freedom and independence probably for me. I travel solo quite a bit, or I travel with one other person usually, not so much in groups, or so I like the freedom of choosing where and what to do during a day, and also experiencing the culture. I guess food especially is very close to my heart. Love to eat, love to, taste new things. So I think that's a very good way of getting to know people as well. So yeah, I think just freedom of exploring. I like variety in my life. I'm having a very hard time just being in one place. And just by traveling and see new things, I feel like that really satisfies the variety that I need in life. So you would say it's like a big part of your personality that you go outside and travel. You need to do this. Yeah, and I think I'm not sure I really like traveling around so much. I like to see new places, but I don't like to constantly be on the move and like in a new place every day or even every few days. I do like to travel, like now, like where you have like 10 days or maybe 2 weeks in a place where you can more soak it in rather than having to do tourist things or sightseeing or see things all the time. So yeah, I think that's a big part. And I think I felt it really early on in my life. Like I grew up in a very small town, outside in the forest, but in nature. And I think even as a child, I liked to be out exploring the lakes around where we lived and, just walking around the mountain and just seeing things by myself. I guess my parents let me. They must have trusted it. So I think I early on knew that I wanted to do it further and further away from where I was born, I guess. Was traveling something your parents inspired, or was it something you explored for yourself? So I don't think my parents like to travel much. They've traveled to visit me when I've been living in other places around the world. But they're very much homebodies. They like to stay at home. We had pets growing up, so there was always someone taking care of them. They had gardens, so they were always doing that. So I feel like I don't think I got it from my parents. I really like studying languages. My parents never really took that as an interest. So I feel like I have no idea where it came from, but I did feel it really early on that I had the need to see other places, learn other languages, try other things. I get kind of bored if I'm in one place too long. So it's like, it has to be like a medium range for me, it seems like, for me to really enjoy it.
So would you say was like the first solo travel or the first traveling you did?
I mean, in my teens, I did join like camps where I didn't know anyone in advance, but then you went with a group, of course, once you arrived there. So I think that like was the first step of being outside of my comfort zone, because I am very, as a child, I was very shy and didn't like to be in big groups or to socialize much. But that first trip, I guess maybe I was 13, and I realized that I could make friends, and you kind of found your way around and you could do things by yourself, even if it was supervised. I think that kind of started planting a seed a little bit. And I think my next trip, I traveled a little bit with my family around Europe, but like in a car or just very basic things, maybe in Western Europe. I'm not really sure where it all started, but I took like a Chinese language class in high school because there was a teacher whose husband was Chinese, and she did like a little cultural class, and I thought it was really fascinating with the Chinese characters and culture. And after high school, when you're supposed to kind of start knowing what you want to do with your life, I had no clue. So I applied. In Sweden, we can get financial aid if we want to study overseas. So I applied for that. I applied for a university diploma, a 1-year diploma in Beijing, and got accepted, got my funding. And then I told my parents.
Okay.
So I was like trying to see if I could get it all organized, because I wasn't sure if they were going to be very happy about it.
And how did they react?
I think they were in shock.
Okay.
I think they were in shock, but I don't think they were surprised, because even during high school, I liked doing my own thing and sometimes not making them too happy about it. But I think when they saw that I had planned everything and I had researched and I had gotten the financial, that I could cover it all myself, I guess they let me go. I'm sure they were very nervous, they've told me looking back, but I was very determined. So they said they realized very early on that they couldn't stop me. So they just kind of made sure I had all my documents and extra, to make sure I could survive.
Mm-hmm. And how was it like a very foreign country?
I would say it was like a mix between terrifying and like really exciting, because at that time, I mean, that was 25 years ago that I went. China wasn't like really developed then. There was no smartphones. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you had a map or GPS or you can, easily find your way around. So I found that looking back, I don't know, like, I guess I had a map, like a real physical big fold-out map. And I remember I came to the airport and I was just going to go find a bus, and I had my luggage, and I was like, I asked someone which the bus number was to my university, and someone pointed me to the bus, and I went on the wrong bus. I don't think they knew where I was going, so I went to a university, but I didn't go to my university. And it was, later, and it was starting to get dark, and I remember coming off the bus, and I was thinking, I'm such an idiot. like who does this? Like, flies to China and doesn't have someone picking you up or like someone arranging something. Instead, I think I was at Beijing Normal University, and I was going to Beijing Language University, and it was just a big mess. And then I had some I guess some students must have seen me with my big map folded out and my suitcase and probably looking really tired. And they helped me I think they actually like went with me to the university and drop me off at the right place. So I think that was also like the first experience of having a situation we were super uncomfortable with, but then asking for help or at least getting someone to help you. Because I feel like as a traveler, you have to get very comfortable, especially as a solo traveler, to ask for help or ask for directions or figuring it out. So, I mean, at that time I was only, a bit over 18, maybe 19. So it was definitely a learning experience for me, but I think it was really great because I really early on during that year to like just find a way to figure it out, that not everyone's going to solve it for you. And you have to kind of just make it work, I guess.
Yeah. And after that year, you went back to Sweden, or?
So when I was in a university in Beijing, I had a classmate who eventually is now my husband. So we met, actually, we were classmates. And so I guess during the time we got together, during that year, and then after that, we had to go back. He went back to the US. He was still finishing his university degree. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So yeah, I came back and I had to work a little bit in between. So I went to the UK. I had friends there who worked at hotels. So I went to clean rooms for a little while, save up some money, and then went to university in the US. So that's where I was for 4 years or 3.5 years to finish my bachelor's degree.
And then you went back to China, no?
Yeah. I worked for a little bit after I graduated. And then I think both me and my husband, we had both thought about returning to Asia because we both find it quite intriguing, and there's so much more, not just China, but in other areas in Asia. So we got an opportunity with a company to go to China to set up an office for them. And it was mainly him. He was going to do it, but then he said, we also need someone to do like office management and accounting and stuff like that. I had never done anything like that. I had never done any accounting. So I actually took an accounting class, intensive accounting class in the US, learned a little bit, and then I got to join him then as setting up this office. So we flew back. Then we were in Guangzhou in the southern part of China, just across from Hong Kong, setting up an office. I did that for like a year. I hated it. Accounting is not my thing. Numbers, like just calculating, and I was just not. I couldn't really, find much joy in that. I feel like I can do it, but it's not something I want to pursue. So I looked for other work opportunities and got hired by a Chinese company, also in Guangzhou. And that kind of started the path of work that I'm currently doing. It was, having been an international student myself, I kind of like that concept. I like when young people can study overseas or see something new, even if it's short term or longer term or a whole university degree. I kind of just like that idea of more people doing that. So I found a company that helps Chinese students study abroad.
That's so great, because you did that yourself and now you pass on the knowledge or inspire people to do the same and help them on their way. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, I know that a lot of people don't love what they do and you have to work to get money, but I feel having been so fortunate to kind of feel like, what I do to a day-to-day basis is actually something that I think is really useful or beneficial for the student and for the school that they're going to and for the community. A lot of the students that I've worked with through the years, they go to maybe towns in the US or other places where they don't really have that many international students, so they might not have that much way of interacting with other cultures. So just seeing like for example, a Thai student who will go to middle of the US to Iowa or Kansas and, you know, just the fun that they have and like the experiences that they have, and what the community does to support the students. And it's fun to be part of that. It just makes me look back at like all the experiences I've had as an international student.
Mm-hmm.
Just, so I really enjoy it. So that's why I've been doing it now for, 12, 13 years.
And when you came to China and started working there, did you also travel there or in the surroundings, or was it more work?
So I worked for a company that had branch offices. I think maybe 10 branch offices across China. So I was lucky that I was sent maybe if there was an event or something, and because I was the only foreigner in the company, a lot of times they wanted maybe me to be talking to parents somewhere else. So I got to travel quite a bit, mostly for work, but then also if I was there and it was during like close to weekend, I would stay over the weekend. So I've seen a lot of cities, I guess, and some of the sites, and, you know, been able to travel around and experience the different foods in the different areas, because it's very different in each region in China. So during like the first 10 years, maybe 8 years, I traveled a lot. And then I think once you get comfortable with the country, maybe you've seen a lot of places already, then you get more, then I found that I wanted to travel more outside of China after that.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, I've seen a lot of really nice places in China. And it's also been interesting seeing a country develop over time.
Mm-hmm.
From the first time I was there until now, I mean, it's 25 years ago, so much have happened in China. Like, cities have completely changed, you know, new areas, and towns that used to be very smaller have now developed and become kind of big metropolitan areas. And it's kind of interesting to see that, because China develops so fast compared to Sweden, for example, that looks pretty much the same as when I grew up, more or less. I mean, very, very little change. There's no such dramatic changes in Europe. Whereas in Asia, like from like 5 years, a lot can happen. 10 years, even more. So it's quite fascinating to see, I think.
And is it also culturally changing a lot, or is it more like buildings and economics?
It's, you know, buildings and economics, but it's also, I guess, the influence of the West has come in much more. So, like, when I first came to China, I think there was McDonald's, and by the end of my first year there, I think they had a Starbucks. Mm-hmm. So it was very hard to, you had to eat local Chinese food, and there was not that many options. Mm-hmm. And you could get some imported food, like you can get like Coca-Cola or like a Snickers bar, like these very traditional things, but not a lot of variety. So it was harder to go shopping, and I was a student, so I didn't have that much money to go shopping anyway. But it was just the options were just not there. Mm-hmm. Whereas now, if you're in a big city in Shanghai, you can get absolutely anything from the West. Like, you never really, if you want to just isolate and feel like you're in a Western city, it just feels like you're in a Western city. Mm-hmm. You can obviously seek out if you want to have Chinese food, but if you want to eat French and Spanish and, you know, Italian every day of the week, it's easy to do that too in China. So it's like the options for people have just broadened, but it's also become a lot more expensive.
And have the people also changed? Like, how is your connection to Chinese people?
I feel like it was easier to connect in my earlier days. Mm-hmm. Maybe also because it was new to me, and maybe I as a foreigner was a little bit new to them. So I think there was more interest in getting to know each other, or maybe exchanging cultural aspects, or like them introducing food, and they were very excited about that. I think it's less so now, because people have so much more experienced people, at least before COVID, like Chinese people could travel everywhere, and they did. So a lot of people would travel, or they could buy things locally, and not like the West was not so interesting anymore. Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's less of that initial connection that I used to feel, whereas like you really wanted to get to know each other because everything was so new from both sides. I think some part of that is lost now.
And for you, because I can imagine in China, you always stand out because you don't look Chinese, you look European, you're from Sweden. So wherever you go, they know you're a foreigner. And that can feel lonely, I guess. So how did you experience it?
I think in the beginning, you got a lot of attention, especially when it was quite new with foreigners traveling to China. Maybe you get a lot of the people wanting to take pictures with you, or people just kind of congregating around looking at you, or sometimes they would like talk about me. I remember I had people like discussing what I look like. They'd be like looking at me and like, oh, your nose is different. Like they wouldn't be speaking to me. They'd be speaking about me, standing next to me. You're like, okay, this is a little bit rude, but okay.
But not realizing you speak their language?
Yeah, no, they didn't. So it's like, they just would often comment to just, to each other. So you'd be just hearing things and you realize, oh, I think they're speaking about me. Talking about like a nose or my ears, that everything was different, and I think that was a little bit, I thought it was really funny.
Okay.
I feel like that happens much less now. Like I feel like they don't get as surprised because they see more foreigners. But if you go to a smaller place now, if you go to the countryside now, you probably still get similar reactions as you would in the city 20 years ago. Mm. But, and I think you get used to it after a while too. Like I'm so used to being different that I don't have to try to even think about it as much anymore. Mm-hmm. I think it helps. It helps speaking the language because then right away you can communicate. It doesn't become such a strange foreign situation for them, and they relax more, and you can actually have like a normal interaction with someone compared to if you don't speak their language. Like here in Thailand, I obviously don't speak the language. It can become kind of stiff sometimes when you're trying to communicate. Whereas if you know the local language, obviously you kind of break some of that barrier and they relax a bit more, and you can just have like a normal situation where you're in a fruit store buying fruit and you're asking for how much it is. It doesn't have to be such a complicated situation. Mm-hmm. And so then you partly like forget that you're a foreigner living in a foreign country. It's just like, it's my neighborhood and I'm buying fruits. That's it. So I think it just becomes your everyday life. It becomes quite normal. Mm.
But then 2 years ago, it rather changed drastically and you became the foreigner again. What happened when COVID hit?
Yeah, so I was in, so it was January's Lunar New Year in Asia. So we normally try to go somewhere for a holiday, usually in Asia. And this year we were going to Thailand. Here, so we were in Bangkok. We were thinking about maybe going to Phuket or some island. We were not really sure. And then we started hearing about this virus in Wuhan, and we started seeing it on the news, and people at home in China was starting to talk about if we had heard about it. And it just, at first, it just felt like quite normal because they have the swine flu and the bird flu, and we didn't really think much of it. We had 2 weeks in Thailand anyway, so we were just trying to enjoy it, checking the news once in a while. But then it started getting worse and worse. They started locking down Wuhan, and they were afraid of people traveling and bringing it everywhere. So we just decided to delay. We delayed a week. We extended. We kept working from Thailand. And we went to Phuket. We tried to enjoy it, but it just started getting worse and worse. And we realized that this is not a great situation, but what can you do? It's things like that happen sometimes. My husband had to go back to China because he runs a factory there. So he couldn't, leave. I work a lot in Southeast Asia, so I could decide. So I asked my boss, I said, okay, maybe I'll extend a little bit. Maybe I'll go to Vietnam, do a few weeks and see how things develop. I was in Thailand a little bit and I flew to Vietnam. And when I landed, I saw I had a lot of messages on my phone from my mom. So I called her up and she told me my dad had passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. But so it was quite shocking because I just landed and I think I had a hard time processing it. But I was at the airport, so I just booked the first flight home to Sweden. And that was probably early March. So early March, and also that was when things really started to move and it was starting to get to other countries. And so I was there and, we were handling the funeral and I was in my bubble, because I couldn't really think about anything else. And then the funeral was over and then Sweden started locking down. Sweden started, no travel and you shouldn't leave. And then China locked and totally you couldn't get in. And I was kind of stuck in Sweden. So, I just had to wait, I just waited and I was helping my mom get everything organized and everything like that. And then weeks turned into a month and turned into several months. And I spent the whole summer there, just being stuck and video conferencing with my husband every day.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, making sure that he's safe and making sure that he can still work. Like, it never really spread to Shanghai. So like that area, it had a few, but it never really was any trouble there. So he could still keep working and keep his job. I could still keep my job, luckily working remotely from Sweden. I think because of financial reasons, like a lot of people were laid off and a lot of people lost their jobs. So we were both trying to hold on to our jobs, even though I guess he could have quit, he could have joined me, or we could have relocated somewhere else. We didn't know how long it was going to last. So we figured, okay, let's just keep our jobs, make sure that we have money because who knows how long this is going to last. I did not think it was going to last this long.
No one did.
We thought maybe like during the summer and fall, and it was just, we figured, okay, we've been apart before. He went to do his MBA. We were apart for a year. It was fine. Okay, we can handle another 6 months, a year. But I was in Sweden during the summer. In the fall, I went to his family in California, lived there for the whole winter. It was just, at some point we started realizing that this was going to take a really long time, but it's very hard, with options, and it's very hard to make a decision in the middle of a pandemic to quit a job and not have something lined up. So we kept thinking that, okay, well, we can make this work. This is not so bad. We're adults, we can handle it. We don't have kids, so we don't have to worry about like other people. It's just us. So that's what we've been doing now for 2 years.
Yeah.
It is pretty much 2 years now.
So he went back to Shanghai. You stayed obviously in Sweden because of family reasons, which was good, and also COVID. But there was no, if you would have wanted to go back to China, they wouldn't have let you in?
Yes, so my husband is on a work visa and he has a work permit. I was always on a business visa because I frequently traveled to Vietnam and Thailand for business. So I never really had to have more than 60 days in country. At that time, China didn't really care. You could extend, you can get a 1-year visa. It was very easy. But my visa expired in July 2020. And since then I have not been able to get a visa.
How many times have you applied or tried?
No, I tried. They don't have the system open for those kind of visas. You pretty much have to get like a government letter from a Chinese government so that you get sponsored to get a business visa, or if you get some sort of diplomatic visa. I have no connections like that.
Yeah.
My company doesn't have an office in China.
Mm-hmm.
We just have customers in China. So it's just, and also China has the quarantine. So it's 3 weeks quarantine in hotel. That's also quite expensive. So even if I could do it, even if I could get in, that means that I couldn't go to my other markets or come out of China also. So
yeah, of course, work-wise, if you then go to Thailand or anywhere because of your business and you go back, it's always three weeks.
The 3 weeks quarantine. So it's just...
And it's the same for your husband if he's going out, because he could go out.
Yeah, he can definitely go out.
Yeah.
It's just coming back in.
Is the problem.
Yeah, so he has come out twice.
Okay.
So we had, but the problem is that the reason why he came out, because his mother passed away. We've had such a terrible year when it came to that. So we saw each other for that reason. It was terrible. It was just like so yes, we saw each other for 2 weeks during that time. And then we saw each other October 2021 for a whole month. So that was really super special. But it's just like, I feel like if we had known that it was going to be 2 years, we would have made different decisions early on. During the pandemic, probably he would have more aggressively looked for other jobs, or like we would have probably thought about it differently. But because no one knew, and you kind of just kept waiting, and it kept looking better and then getting worse, and then looking better and then getting worse.
Yeah.
It's just like we've always thought that it was going to be an end that was within 6 months, and then that end never shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have a new plan this summer. Either he's going to quit his job, or the company is going to transfer him to the US.
Okay.
So now it looks like we have some sort of
there is a deadline to it,
and we're going to see each other in June in Europe. So now it's starting to feel like there's like a reality to getting back to some sort of normal. But who knows?
Yeah, and you're like, you told me you locked out from your things because you were on holiday when COVID started, and then Vietnam, and you flew back to Sweden. So you never came home to Shanghai in between. So all your stuff is there, and you're like for 2 years now buying new things, adapting and traveling. And for me, it feels like you're kind of trying to circle China, like you're getting closer. We're now in Thailand.
slightly getting just closer and closer, but never really being able to get back to my apartments. Yeah.
Does it still feel like home, Shanghai?
I mean, strangely so, because we've lived there for so long, and you know the city, and you know the area you live in. And I would say for me personally, I've always had a very easy time feeling at home in new places. So I know a lot of people feel like they're home, they feel lost without it, and it's such a big part of who they are. But I think because I've moved around quite a bit in my life, I've gotten really good at quickly making a new surrounding feel home, even if it's quite temporary. I have a very easy time relaxing in a new place. Like, it doesn't stress me out that I'm away from home or don't have all my things. So maybe I'm lucky that way. That it was hard because I left and I had intentionally packed very light, because it was going to be a 2-3 week vacation. It was going to be in a warm area. So it was a lot of tank tops and bikinis and sandals. It was just, very, very, very beachy kind of packing. And when I extended my time in Thailand and I asked to stay on to work in Vietnam, I had to ask my boss for a budget to buy some a dress and a suit jacket for me. So they gave me just a little bit of money. So I bought a couple of things. So I had a couple, like, I had like a business dress and a jacket. I was like, okay, fine. I can work a little bit and look professional. And then I got a phone call about my dad. It was March in Sweden. It's pretty cold. Mm-hmm. It was snow. It was dark. I had flip-flops and, I'm not even sure I had a pair of jeans with me. It was just not, I hadn't planned that. So I came back and I grabbed a few of my dad's clothes, a few of my mom's clothes. I had some friends who had some old clothes that I was like, so I was wearing like the whole summer, I was wearing like donated clothes because I didn't want to buy new stuff because I have all my things at home.
Yeah. And you always thought you were going back.
I always thought it was temporary. Yeah. So I just kept being in all these borrowed clothes, or like old clothes that I had lying around in my mom's place. So it was quite a weird feeling, and that just kind of continued. Mm-hmm. And I haven't really bought new clothes, which is kind of nice. Maybe a little bit here and there, but I didn't, because I never knew how long it was going to be. I didn't want to use a lot of my money to buy new things that I didn't really want. So I strangely have this mix of clothes that I live in. Mm-hmm. It's been fine, but it's been just a weird situation. Just a lot of borrowed things, but it's, when you have a family and friends, you can always figure things out. Mm. But it was quite an adjustment for that.
So, like, for the last 2 years, you're traveling around, like staying longer in one place. Sweden is your home and the US as well, because it's your husband's family. So you knew what was around and you lived there as well a long time. But now you're in Thailand traveling. And does it feel more like traveling, or does it feel like for the last 2 years you're always roaming around?
I feel like it feels more like traveling in Thailand because, at first I was in Bangkok a little bit. That feels more like a business trip for me because I've done so many business trips in Bangkok. So there I kind of go into business mode. I work all day and, just focus on that. And then in December and then now I've been more like island, beach, holiday. It definitely feels more like travel because it's a new place for me. I've never been on these islands before. Mm-hmm. I don't speak the language. I mean, definitely living out of a suitcase much more than I do when I'm longer times in a place. So yeah, it feels strangely more like vacation. And then I also have to remind myself that I am actually working full time. Mm-hmm. So I have to make sure that I put in the hours of that. But definitely with the island style, you get more in a kind of a relaxed mode. And
so you're like an official digital nomad, but you never wanted to become one.
It was not intentional.
Yeah.
But I've never really worked in an office with my current work. Mm-hmm. So I am used to like working with a laptop in my lap, literally, at the airport, or you're sitting in a cafe, or in Shanghai I have a little bit of a home office. So I'm still used to not having the official kind of cubicle or office setting. Mm-hmm. That's never really been something that I enjoy working in. So I do like this style of, putting your laptop and that's your office all of a sudden. Or the last few days I've been staging my laptop so that I can do video conferencing from my bed, but I have a background that is white. And if someone saw it, it looks ridiculous, but on the screen it looks like I'm maybe in an office. Yeah. So you make it work.
Yeah.
But being in the surrounding here, mm-hmm. Especially in Comac here, it's just so tropical.
Yeah.
Of course, it does feel a bit like holiday as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like the last 2 years, it's been really awful, but it's also been really exciting because mm-hmm. I've been able to do these things that in a normal work environment or in a normal work year, I would never come here. I would never travel around to islands in Thailand mm-hmm. while I'm still working normally. Yeah. So I feel like so much excitement has come out of it, as well as really hard times. Yeah. So it's been roller coaster is the right word.
Yeah. I guess it's like a really compromised time of growing, like your level of adaptiveness, like how to react on new situations, on flexibility, which is like a core thing you have to be able to when you're traveling. You are on the next level, like you're high level, like doing this. And is there something when what you would say, like, if this happens, that would totally throw me, like when, I don't know, the taxi driver drives on the wrong side. I don't know. Is there something you would say, this is where I draw the line?
I think when it comes to solo traveling, like I know a lot of people who do, you read about things or you see podcasts, or something where people do really crazy things. Like, I don't do that. Like, I always want to make sure that I'm safe. I feel like, I can feel at home in many places, but if I don't feel safe, that is a deal breaker for me. Like, I feel I intentionally choose to travel solo in countries where I still feel like, I can be out after dark. I can walk around and not feel, unsafe. Obviously, I don't like show my money or like, I'm still street smart about it, but I do pick places that are safe. And I think that's always been a deal breaker for me. I don't want to have to walk around clutching my bag and feeling like I have to look over my shoulder all the time. So I think that's something I intentionally pick places where I think, I'm going to feel relaxed and comfortable and safe. And that's pretty much everything else. Then you can make friends or meet people or have good food. That's everything else will work out. And Wi-Fi.
yeah, Wi-Fi.
That might be a deal breaker as well.
Yeah, because we're a digital nomad. That's like
safety and Wi-Fi. And then I'm all good. And then no matter what situation you're in, you have, I feel like in the bungalow I'm in now, you always have like spiders and geckos and a lot of little animals and stuff. No problem. I can handle it. But if the Wi-Fi is slow, no. Then I'm in trouble all of a sudden. Like, I can't, have video conferencing with my boss, and that's a deal breaker. Yeah.
So in those 2 years, is there something you say, because it was hard, obviously, where you would say, I wouldn't want to have missed that, like an experience or a situation comes to mind where you say, this was so amazing?
I think the fact that, because I left Sweden when I was quite young, and I never really returned home except for, maybe a week here and there, when I visited. I've never actually moved back home. So since I was 18, which is a lot of years, we're not going to say how many, but a lot of years, I haven't really spent a lot of times with my family. So I feel like I missed maybe a part of it. So I think when my dad passed, I was kind of thrown back into family mode, which at first I wasn't really comfortable with, because who wants to move back with their mom, when they're been away for quite a long time. But I think looking back, it was such an amazing experience because I could really process my grief, like during that summer. Like, my mom didn't really want to take care of my dad's things, but she wanted them organized. So I had to do all of that. We redid the whole garden at home according to how my mom really wanted it. So I did a lot of like physical work and gardening. And, so I think there's been a lot of experience like that over the 2 years that obviously I would never have planned it myself. But it ended up just being such a gift to be doing it. I feel like you get so tied up in work, even if you're, moving around, and I was still traveling. I didn't really prioritize, I think, some of my friendships and, family time. And I feel like now I was forced to do it, but I also really enjoyed it. So I think, I I think I'm actually going to start spending summers in Sweden if I can from now on, as often as I can, because it's just been a great experience. So I feel like a little bit in my whole youth, I've always wanted to escape Sweden, but now I'm finally kind of starting to enjoy it again and wanting to be home a little bit more. Thinking long term, maybe I should get a place, retire in part of the year in Sweden, or, start to think about those kind of very long term plans. So I think that has come out of it, because I don't think I would have done that otherwise. I think I would have stayed in Asia otherwise. I think I would have worked a lot more, and have that as my focus in life. And I feel like now I've maybe reevaluated a little bit, because I was forced to. I was forced to kind of find other priorities during this time. And I think some of them are going to stick.
And do you think that's also like, because it's this time of your life and you've seen so much from the world already, you've seen a lot of Asia or a lot of like really of the world, and now it's back to the roots?
There's still a lot to explore, I think. I've never been to South America. I've never been to Africa. So I've been to South Africa, but there's still so much more to explore. So I think it's still going to be a big part of my life. But I feel like I value home a little bit more now, and I value family and my really old friends. It's really nice to make new friends. I've made friends with you during this trip, and it's been like really fun. But I also like really realized that I have to prioritize like family and friends at home. And there's a reason why I'm still friends with them for such a long time. And I really have to like spend more time actually being there. So I'm hoping that I can like balance it better in the next few years. Not just get so focused on work and just Asia is really great, but I feel like I want to balance other areas as well.
I've been at home a lot during the first time of COVID as well, also with my mother.
Okay.
Yeah, also doing garden work, a lot
in common.
Yeah, very much so. And I actually started this podcast because when I started to talk to people at home who don't travel or have a different kind of style, how they travel, a lot of them said, "Why are you traveling alone? I couldn't imagine." Or a lot of them said, I want to travel more, but I don't have anybody to come with me. If someone would say those things to you, what would be your reaction?
I think it depends a little bit about your own personality, about how you like to travel. I think I'm probably very much an introvert. I like being very peaceful with myself. I quite enjoy it, and I need that quite a lot of times. So if I'm in a group traveling, I get quite exhausted because I feel like I have to be social all the time, and for me that's quite draining. But I know other friends who that's how they prefer to travel. It's with a group of friends, and you have fun together and you explore. I think for me personally, you miss quite a bit. I like traveling with a group too. That's fine with friends. But I feel like when I'm by myself and I'm quiet, I get so much more, I see so much, and I can be quiet and really absorb more of the surrounding. So for me, that works really well. And then you don't have to compromise too. Like if I'm traveling and I think today I just don't want to do anything, I just want to be in my bed and read, that's fine. I just like that freedom and exactly what you want to do and how much and how long and where and when. For me, that's a luxury. And then of course I like to travel with my husband too. It's just, I feel like it's just different. But I think traveling solo, if you choose, like I said, a safe place, maybe start small. If someone wants to do something, if they're in Europe, there's so many really nice places, maybe locally, they could try out. But I don't think solo travel might be for everyone. I don't know. If you're a very social person, you might need it, to feel happy. I don't know.
Yeah. But still, you might make a lot of new friends. If you're a social person, then like solo travel, like coming here on this island, I think I know immediately 100 people more because there are always the same 100 people around.
This island is very special, I think, for meeting people. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been in a place where it's been such a community and people do so much together.
So come to Comac.
Yes, it's been quite a fantastic experience, and I think it's also saying yes to certain things, like I get invited to a party my first night here, and that's how I met you. I had actually said no to the party first because of work. And then looking back, I was like, if I hadn't gone to that, I probably wouldn't have met some people, and then I wouldn't have found out about the volunteering experiences, and I wouldn't have gotten involved in anything. I probably would have still had a really nice experience, but it would have been very different. So I think also saying yes to, for me, that's something I've had to learn, to like really maybe seek out some more group things, or say yes to an invitation, even if I might not feel super comfortable with it. Try to get outside of my comfort zone and say yes and see where that goes. So I think that's something I myself have to learn, because I'm very quick to say no to social things. But I realize when I say yes, I usually enjoy them. So it's like, it's been a bit of a learning for me as well.
Yeah. But it's a good thing. And if you're going solo, then you're more, like if you two people are traveling with a partner, then you say no and you stay in and it's fine. So you push yourself more when you're alone.
Yeah, and it's more likely that someone will talk to you when you're kind of by yourself as well. I found it. I mean, if you put yourself out there and interact, people are very friendly, and it's easy to meet people and talk. So it's been an experience for me, and I still feel like I have to push myself to do it a lot. But when I do it, I enjoy it so much. I agree with you. When you're by yourself, you just naturally kind of bump into people and talk. Whereas if you're two, you might just kind of click together and go to dinner together, and you don't necessarily open up and talk to other people. So for me, it's definitely going outside of my comfort zone brings benefits to me. And I learn it over and over again, even though I sometimes forget. And I have to remind myself that, usually when you do, it just turns out to be a really fantastic experience. So,
that's true.
Yeah, so it's been a fun week here.
In the end, I always do a word rap. So I tell you some words and you just respond with the first thing.
Oh, wow.
What comes in your mind.
Interesting.
So, bed or breakfast?
Bed or breakfast? Ooh, bed.
Jungle or desert?
Jungle. Definitely jungle.
Lake or ocean?
Ooh, lake. I'm a little bit afraid of water sometimes, so I need a lake calm, no waves.
Camping van or 5-star resort?
So if I'm by myself, camping van. If I'm with my husband, it'll be a 5-star resort. Hopefully he's a little bit more comfortable. But I fit very well into both. I feel like you get very different experiences.
That's true.
But they can both be fantastic. But I like the variety.
Being alone is for me.
I like having a partner in life. I like having, we've been together now for over 20 years. And I feel I like that as stability and comfort. But I definitely need time by myself, a lot of it. So I seek that out. And as long as I have that balance, I'm happy. I don't feel lonely when I'm alone, but it works for me.
That is my next question, is being lonely is for me?
No, being alone is fine. Lonely, that feels a bit negative, but I think sometimes that's nice to be a little bit lonely, because then you also value connection when it happens. So it can be beneficial if it's not too long term.
Mm-hmm. The next destination on my travel bucket list?
I'm hoping it's Vietnam, if they open up for the visa in a couple of weeks. Otherwise, Cambodia.
Nice. 3 things I always take with me.
Probably sunscreen, bug spray, especially here.
The tiny list.
Something weird I travel with is my own pillowcase. Yeah. I have like a kind of silky bamboo or something, because I feel like when you're in budget resorts, sometimes it's really rough fabric, and it makes me feel at home. So maybe those are the three things.
And one tip for a future solo traveler would be?
I think it goes back to especially when you're starting out, is pick a safe place, but then try not to be too safe. Like, don't, like, be outside of your comfort zone. So like, pick a safe place where you feel is good, but then kind of step out and put yourself a little bit uncomfortable. That's when you have the best experiences, I think. When you're a little bit on that edge of discomfort. I think that's when you really have those kind of fantastic experiences that you wouldn't expect otherwise.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I feel so honored that you shared your story with me.
Thank you for inviting me. This was, again, a new experience for me.
And now we're really hot both, because it's like
sweaty in here.
And we now go outside and watch the sunsets.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
Thank you.
We talked on a sunny, tropical, very typical Thailand day in my bungalow, and I guess you heard a lot of wildlife, birds singing and surrounding sounds. But fortunately, you couldn't see us sweat. We had to switch off the AC and fan, otherwise it would have been impossible to make a decent recording. So I hope we can transport some of the tropical feeling to you, and you enjoyed this rather unusual story of how to become a digital nomad. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments and likes. Stop by on my Instagram or email me. You find the details in the show notes. Last but not least, don't listen to us, go find out.